Hello and welcome to the latest video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. We are looking ahead to a Fantasy Premier League Game Week 35. It is a single game week sandwiched between three doubles in fact. So it's a double layer for the second part of this giant sandwich metaphor thing, which I'll end now. This time we're going to get our crystal balls out. We're going to try and predict who will score or assist this game week via the goals and assists imminent table from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. We'll see how we got on last week. We'll reveal our game week 35 transfer plans as well, and we will have a live Q&A with the live chatters as well towards the end. My name is Joe, and joining me as ever is Tom, Fantasy Football Scout's deputy editor. Tom, welcome. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Joe. Yeah, really enjoyed these past few days. There's been some good matches on, hasn't there? There was Leicester and Everton last night, a lot of goals, Liverpool, Tottenham on Sunday. And we've still got 4 to go in 34 as well, haven't we? But we're obviously looking ahead to 35 here, which starts on Saturday. But yeah, so many great games and loads of goals as well. So
yeah. Well, I was had a message from Karam who does the sort of stats of the day video on Saturday. And he was thinking, well, we've only got 3 matches. And then he was, well, turns out we had plenty of goals as well, particularly with my team, Brighton, who fielded their B team and still ran out with a record score for them in the Premier League, 6-0, which was something to behold, really. And we had lots of our differentials across the Scoutcast. We had a differentials video as well. Lots were talking about Undav and Welbeck example. So we're very pleased about that, and we had a few successes with our own tables as well. Before we look at them, just welcome those early birds joining us in the live chat. Luke C, FPL Big Head, Blake, FPL Bateman, Let's Talk Vinyl, Sukan, and more. Thanks so much for joining us. Do press that like button and do subscribe if you're not already. I'm sure you are if you're joining us that early, but do tell your friends to subscribe. Also, a reminder, if you don't want to continue watching our faces, you can listen to us because everything's on a podcast version anyway. Among the people in the live chat, Luke C is saying he's looking at Pascal Gross. He was absolutely phenomenal last Saturday. He's been phenomenal for years in the Premier League and Bundesliga. He could be a brilliant big differential for remaining weeks of the campaign. Yes, indeed. Brian is chock-a-block. He's got too many of them. They've got too many differentials. My brain will explode the amount of differentials there. Okay, let's have a look how we got on. This was our goals imminent table for game week 33, and we still got game week 34 to go. Yet to play, we got Havertz in game week 34. That is, he hasn't scored it, so he may or may not get a return. Is the ship sailed, and even considering Havertz, even though they've got a double coming up?
Well, he's missed the last 2, but I think he's meant to return to the squad tonight. I think Lampard said he was in contention, so let's have a look at him tonight. But I don't see many managers eyeing up Chelsea assets given the current situation at the moment. Even with that double, and that double isn't a great one either, is it?
No, I had 2 Chelsea players going in. I've now got one. I've got Kepa, who's pretty much on the bench most weeks, and Chilwell's out for Alexander-Arnold. So quite pleased with that. I think that was the most popular move, one of the most popular moves. I was looking at live FPL this week. Certainly a lot of people getting rid of Chilwell there. Next one, I'm very pleased about this. This is my smug pose. Calvert-Lewin. People would have raised an eyebrow for seeing Calvert-Lewin on our goals imminent table, but this is the last 4 matches played, and so the last 4 matches he played, he was due to score, and indeed he did. So I was quite pleased about that. Yeah, penalty, but it's all goals. Calvert-Lewin there. What do you think about Calvert-Lewin with Everton? He is back now. If he can stay fit. And Everton fighting for their lives, fighting for their survival. They're going to need him to score. He could be a good option, do you think?
He looked really sharp last night. I think he had 5 shots. He scored the penalty. He missed an absolute sitter as well from a Dwight McNeil cross. He's getting chances. And I immediately, once I saw a bit of form from him, I looked at the fixtures, and the only kind of bit which stood out was game week 38. They play Bournemouth at home. I thought he could be one of those punts for the last round of fixtures. If Everton need to win that game, which they probably will do to stay up, might not be a bad switch from somebody like Watkins or something like that if you've still got him then, or even a Newcastle attacker or something
Yeah.
like that. So yeah, I mean Calvert-Lewin, fitness is the problem, minutes has been the problem, but when he does play, he generally gets good chances. So yeah, I don't dislike that.
That's a great call. Game week 34,
Mm,
38. Because I'll
mm,
probably, when I look at my team a bit later, I tend to sort of have a vague plan. But I haven't got a plan for game week 38. It's just question mark,
you are,
whatever. And that's
yeah.
exactly the kind of move. It's good because you're probably not going to move tremendously far in the overall rankings. You might have some mini league, but by game week 38, it's time to do something like that. It's time for Calvert Lewin. So let's see if he's fit.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, I don't dislike that.
No.
So let's see how he gets on anyway over the next few. But he looked promising last night.
Solanke is next. Another success for us. He has scored. He's been promising to score all the time, and he does assist a lot, and he gets goals occasionally. Solanke. Well, once again, a possible game week 38 punt as well because he's playing Everton, who're going to leave gaps.
Yeah, and he's got a good. He plays Chelsea this weekend, and suddenly now,
Well, that's an easy game.
well, you'd
Please.
fancy Bournemouth, wouldn't you, in that at home? I mean, I think they've won 6 of their last 9, Bournemouth. So suddenly that looks like a pretty good fixture for him. He's in the current Scout Picks bus team as well. So at that kind of value, he's doing really well. He's like you say, he's been on these tables for a long time, Joe, hasn't he? And he's always failed to convert those chances, but assists have never been really a problem for him. But he's now starting to convert a little bit more. And what is he, like 5.5 million? It's crazy value, isn't it? So yeah, I like him a lot.
Definitely. Next up is Solly March, who's new into my team. I was only going to use one transfer last week, but I saw from Andy Naylor, who used to work at the Brighton Argus, now works for Athletic. He seemed pretty convinced that Caicedo and McAllister would be benched. He was pretty convinced that Matoma was looking tired as well, but it was more McAllister. So I made that switch, McAllister to March. I quite fancy playing the two wingers there. I also like March when he plays at right back. I find him much more attacking as a right back than Pascal Gross there. Yeah, and I just had enough of the where will McAllister play. So that's probably going to cost me. It might not. I might end up getting more points. It might just be a sideways move, and they both scored exactly the same. But nevertheless, March. So yeah, he's looking a bit tired. He could be due a rest soon, maybe for a game. But yeah, I mean, we've spoken about Brighton. They just, it doesn't matter who plays, does it? They're just attacking unit at the moment.
Yeah, it felt like one of those Salah moments to a slightly lesser extent in the
Yeah.
9-0 when he didn't return. And what was it, 5-0 when Marsh went off at pre-60?
Yeah.
In fact, he went off pre-60 and he did get a bit of a rest, is
Yeah.
probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Does he need a full rest like from the beginning of a match? I don't know, but he's obviously got this Everton fixture at the weekend, and that feels like a really good one for him because Everton, whilst they look pretty good going forward, they're struggling at the back. So he's in my team. I'll happily keep him now.
Yeah, I think I will as well. As we'll see, I've got a hell of a benching headache now. Next up, Anthony, nothing for us, but we've got another match to go in game week 34, so we never know there. But he has scored quite recently as well. Zaha's back and scoring, as predicted by this table. Last 4 matches he was due, so before he was injured, he was due to score another goal, and he did. I mean, Palace. We keep talking about Palace's fixtures are good. Everyone's just going to ignore Palace players from now on, aren't they? But Eze, Elise, Zaha, Jordan Ayew even, they're all going to get returns, aren't they, for the season running?
Yeah, it's the draw of the double game weeks, isn't it? Yeah. I dislike this time of the season in a way because you've got to go for the players with 2 fixtures a lot of the time. It just makes sense to do that, and you've got everybody's got to have a couple of Brighton players now, haven't they, with back-to-back doubles? Yeah. So these kind of players from teams with good fixtures, but just the one, they kind of get cast aside a little bit. And Zaha came back, got the goal. He didn't take the penalty, but he got a dead leg at the weekend. Yeah. And reading between the lines from Hodgson's comments, I think he probably would have stepped up had he been ready and fit.
Yeah.
So it could have been a brace, and they're attacking more under Hodgson. They look more confident. They've got Eze, they've got Elise, they've got good creators. So hard to fit him in though. But he's got Bournemouth and Forest at home still to play, hasn't he? So they're really solid fixtures.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to do something a bit different,
Zaha,
maybe go down that route. Yeah.
perennial differential.
He did come off with a knock. He did get another knock though in this
Yeah,
game, so just
yeah.
monitor that. So
Yeah, there was a conversation. I think when the penalty was awarded, there was a conversation with Zaha,
mm,
and I don't know what came of that, but obviously it was either you're too injured, mate, don't bother, or
yeah,
I'm too injured, I'm not going to bother.
yeah,
Speaking of penalty takers, next we've got McAllister, who obviously he couldn't do much in game week 34. Now he has got another fixture to go, but Veltman came off injured. When Veltman comes off injured, Pascal Gross tends to play at right back. That leaves a gap further into midfield for McAllister to slot into. Pascal Gross can, of course, play attacking midfield as well, and he, of course, certainly attacking the last fixture with quite a monster haul for those that went for him. But McAllister, on penalties, great stats whenever he plays more attacking, less so when he plays more defensive. I think there was an article, wasn't there, on Fantasy Football Scout about McAllister's role.
yeah.
I mean, what's the?
Yeah, Nick nailed it. Yeah.
I mean, given changes with Veltman, given rotation, do we know where he'll play? and if so, does it matter?
Well, you're the expert on this, being the Brighton fan, Joe. But I mean, Gilmore played very well at the weekend,
Yeah,
from what I saw.
man of the
Do you
match.
think? Yeah. Do you think there's because obviously if he's performing and Dizabi feels more confident putting him in, that frees McAllister up to then be a bit further forward, doesn't
Of
it?
course, yeah, yeah,
But is he
yeah.
ready? Is he ready to start games regularly? I guess he is on that
Well,
performance.
yeah. I mean, he came in. He's obviously been, waiting for this chance. He's given his chance. I think. I mean, I think it would look good for Gilmore to keep his place, because if you play that well, and you help orchestrate a 6-0, and you end up with the player of the match in a 6-0. Yeah, I mean that would send a bit of a bad message if you didn't. So yeah, that
Yeah,
could
no, I
push out
agree.
McAllister up a bit further forward.
Oh, yeah, and that's what we want because I think on at the weekend, I think he had, or it might have been in the Forest match. I think he had 5 shots, but then only a couple of them are
Yeah,
in the box, and that kind of sums him up when he's a bit deeper.
yeah,
He still fires a lot of efforts off, but they are from a deeper area of the pitch. We want him
yeah,
closer to goal, ideally.
yeah.
I've got him in my team. I don't own Matoma, and I'm always considering making that kind of
Yeah.
switch, but I've held back on it yet. But if it is still a bit up in the air, his positioning ahead of 36 and 37, I might have to make the move, I think. But
Yeah,
he's probably up there with the best options when he plays
he
in that
is.
10 role. We
He is.
just
I
don't
mean,
know when it is.
as
And
someone who has made, late on a Saturday morning at the Brighton midfield switch, I probably wouldn't recommend it. Whichever two you've got, or indeed three,
stick.
just stick and just look elsewhere for moves. One of the reasons I did is I had two. I was actually looking at burning a transfer possibly next week if there were no injuries. Yeah, I had the luxury to make that move if I
Yeah, why
wanted,
not?
but looking in hindsight, March comes away with nothing, so didn't work out. Next up, Fernandez. He has. Oh,
Well,
sorry.
yeah, let's see. Yeah, still
Let's see.
another game to go, isn't
Still
there?
another
It could
go.
work out for you, I
Yeah,
think. So,
still time
yeah.
for March and May. Fernandez is next. Bruno Fernandez. He has scored. He got an assist the previous week in game week 33, and his game week 34 so far. He has scored, so he could get more returns as well. I kept him. Last week we were speaking. Fernandez making way for Salah, but then Fernandez came back from his bowl of Weetabix and his leg brace on his sofa. He came back from that and was great, and then
Yeah.
he's just been great since. So he's going
Yeah.
nowhere, and he's got a double coming up as well.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, I mean that sums him up really. He is great. He is nailed on. He's even nailed on when he has only got one leg. So
Yeah.
um,
He's been really unlucky not to return more. He hit the bar, didn't he, against
yeah,
Spurs
yeah,
when he had done all the hard work and just couldn't quite finish it. But Fernandez with Casemiro and Ericsson in that team is just a different beast altogether, isn't he? And he's looked
yeah,
so good these past few games. So,
yeah,
yeah, I managed to keep hold of him. I sold Saka instead,
yeah,
which I was pleased about. And yeah, I think Fernandez will probably stay now right through
yeah.
till the end of the season, I think.
Yeah,
So,
I can't see any reason to get rid of him now.
no.
Let's move on to the assists imminent table. So yeah, once again, a couple of successes here. We can sketch over some of them.
Mm,
Fernandez, that man himself, we've just been speaking about him. He got his assist as well. So it'll be interesting to see with just a single assist and a single goal. basically on the goals imminent and assists imminent table, if you get more than one assist or more than one goal, you're off the table in a good way. But since he only had one in his last four, he may still be on the table. We'll find out. But Fernandez top there for the assist imminent, rewarding us there. James is yet to go tonight. He could help us out. So I won't mention him.
No, he's out. I think.
Sorry,
so
he's out. Of course, completely forgot he's out for the season.
No,
the rest of the season.
I made a similar mistake earlier because I started looking at these players and I started to look at him, and then it suddenly dawned on me that he is out for the season. So
So Trippier's next. He was one of two single game week players I've fielded in Gameweek 34. It didn't help me. We did speak last week, and I did say if I was a different manager, I'd ditch him because he's not performing at all in FPL terms. I think at least one of the Newcastle goals he assisted the assister, and he's fully involved, and he is a great player still, but in FPL terms he's not getting these assists that he keeps promising us. So I mean, would you dare go? Because it would be good to have Isak and Wilson, wouldn't it, in Game Week 36 when they double?
Yes, I think if you were to play a wild card now, you might switch that and go double attack, or maybe even include one of the midfielders alongside Isak, like Willock or Joelinton or something like that. Joelinton, sorry, yeah. So you probably would do that. It's one clean sheet in 13, I think, for Newcastle. Trippier is still creating, but he's got this double, hasn't he? So it doesn't seem like the right time to sell him now. I think if you've got him, you just hold him through this double game week in 36. They then got Leicester and Chelsea. Not great. Well, the Chelsea fixture probably okay. Leicester have actually looked pretty good in attack under Dean Smith. So maybe kind of visit them. But I just think his ownership's going to be very big for that 36, isn't it? Because so many people will hold on to him. So probably say stick with it. But yeah, maybe Trippier with a Wilson and Isak as well. That could be pretty interesting. Triple up rather than the double defence. But
as you said about wildcards, if someone does have the luxury of a wildcard still left, Fabian Schär frequently appears on these tables, and I did get a glut of assists recently. Botman was on my bench. I've got Botman and Trippier. Botman outscored Trippier. He got for me 5 points on my bench. I'll never see that because Trippier has blocked him. So my hatred for Trippier as an FPL player is growing with each week.
I started both. I started both Trippier and Botman, and I kind of got a bit fortunate with that Botman assist. But 7 points from the two of them, it still felt a bit underwhelming given the home fixture against Southampton. But he's been frustrating home recently, Trippier. But I think you probably just stick with him now.
I when Fantasy Football Scout does their team of the year and they have the votes as well. You always votes in the middle column. I'm going to belligerently not vote for him. That's going to be my mark there for Trippier. So he's not in my team. Rocker's next at Leeds. I keep saying this. So who is Rocker? But Rocker's 4.8, and he's always due an assist at the moment. Big Sam Allardyce is coming in for Leeds. I mean, this is. I'm not even going to expect you to answer this. Do you think that's going to help Rocker's assist potential? Big Sam. How will we know?
Well, look, his threat comes from set pieces, Rocker, and it's an area Sam Allardyce prioritises, but he's only got 4 games to make that work, and that doesn't feel like a long amount of time to drill those set piece routines. So I think we probably leave Rocker now, Joe, and then maybe reanalyze it next year, depending on if they're in the league, and they might not be. Who knows?
Yeah. So, it's like when you go into a meeting, you think you've got a great idea, and then everyone says, well, I think we'll just put that on the shelf, and we'll revisit that in maybe a year or a decade's time. But that's Rocker.
You can probably do that with the next 2 names as well on this list.
Chilwell just got rid of him for Chelsea. It's gonna be tough. I mean, they play tonight. He could get some returns, and they have a double as well. So I don't completely rule him out. Let's put him on the shelf as well for a week or two. Jensen at Brentford was there. I mean, Brentford is still ticking along quite nicely, but I think there are other options, aren't there?
Got tough fixtures.
McNeil at Everton once again. Everton tough fixtures, but could be a differential there. He's still got that potential.
He was unlucky last night not to assist. He put that chance on the plate for Calvert-Lewin. And he also put the ball in, which Iwobi eventually scored. Now
Yeah.
Iwobi wasn't the intended target, but he put a cross into the box, which we know he likes to do. But again, where you're going to fit him in
Well,
your midfield, it's almost
well,
impossible,
exactly. We
isn't it?
mentioned Iwobi. Iwobi's there on this assist imminent table,
Yeah.
5.2 million. Once again, another differential to
Mm.
consider if he's appearing on these tables. And the final two, Casada, Brighton. I don't think we're going to get anyone to get a Brighton midfielder. We got March, we got Matoma, we got McAllister. We also have Pascal Gross,
Yeah.
and then there's other options across the defence. And attack now as well with Danny Welbeck and Cisa. It just goes on. Estupinan is also on this list. He did reward us with an assist. He got 9-point return, 4.8 million. Yeah, I mean he's fine. He's in the first team, so he's another great option.
Yeah, I felt like I got away with one on Saturday. I don't own a Stupinan, but I was following the match, and I think he had a couple of big chances in that
Yeah,
one, which he could have scored himself. So he suddenly could have got an absolute monster score.
yeah,
And so the fact he got the assist but no bonus because of the amount of goals that Undav scored and everyone else, that 9 points. I felt I probably would have taken that having watched the game. So, but yeah, great option.
yeah.
The double in 36 doesn't look great for clean
No,
sheets, but they've got other games in and around that against Southampton, and
yeah,
so they might
yeah.
keep one there. And it's attacking threat as well, isn't it? That's why he's on this table.
Yeah, if you got him, keep him because this is potential.
Mm,
Same with Steele in goal. You got
mm,
save potential there. You just got to keep. Unlike me,
yeah.
switching my Brighton players around. Okay, let's move on to the latest goals imminent table ahead of this single sandwich in amongst all the doubles of Gameweek 35. Okay, well this is good. Calvert-Lewin is still top. I'll read out his stats. We've mentioned him before, so we don't have to mention much more about him. But 4 big chances, 3 missed. He has scored a goal, as we saw in the last game week. Last 4 matches, 7 of his shots on target. He was expected over his last 4 matches he's played, so this dates back a bit, to have scored at least 2 more goals. This is his second week on the table because he was on the table last week. And we started the table from afresh last week because of the blanks. Anyway, complicated and boring. Won't go into there, but he's still on this table. 13 shots inside the box, 15 shots in total. These are great stats, aren't they? And really underlines what you were saying about a game week 38 punt. If he's still fit, Calvert-Lewin looks like the differential of the week then.
Yeah, he could be. Yeah, I'm not looking that far. We'll talk about my team in a bit. I've kind of only really looking ahead to 36 at the moment,
Right.
but 37, 38 are the times when I'll be looking for these kind of differentials. And the last day of the season traditionally throws up a few more goals, doesn't it? So it could be a good one.
Definitely. Now, Maddison's here because he's fabulous, as ever, but he took a penalty as well. So that registers as a big chance. And it's also registered as a big chance missed. So he's 3 big chances, missed them all. No goals because of Pickford. We'll talk about him in a sec. 5 shots on target. He should have scored at least 2 more than his 0, 2 goals. First week on this table, 8 shots inside the box, 13 shots in total. Now, a couple of points here. One is Pickford. Did you see his water bottle, the close-up of his water bottle? And for those who haven't seen it, it has got all the Leicester penalty takers, Tielemans, Vardy, who's somehow not on penalties at the moment, and Maddison, and had percentages of where they shoot when they do take penalties. And so he clearly studied that, and he clearly knew that Maddison, 60% of his shots, penalties, are through the middle. And that's what he knew. So Pickford, game week 38, another differential, especially if you're a dullard like me and likes goalkeepers. But Maddison, what's going on at Leicester with the penalties? Why Jamie Vardy is actually getting minutes, and when he's on the pitch, other people are taking the penalties. Why is he not on penalties? He's really good at them, and Maddison's clearly not as good as.
Yeah, I mean, I was really surprised Maddison's stepped up because, like you say, Vardy was on the pitch and Tielemans was taking some penalties before was on the pitch. So after the match, Dean Smith obviously got asked about it. And he said when he came into the club, he spoke to the coaches and they said that Kelechi, Iheanacho and Maddison were the main penalty takers there. Now, they said that because Vardy has hardly been playing, had he, under Brendan Rodgers this season. So they wanted to get players who are being on the pitch, I think, a bit more as their regular takers. Kelechi Iheanacho, he took one against, I think it was Wolves, wasn't it, when he stepped up? But he's obviously now injured, and that's why Maddison stepped up. But it's still surprising that Maddison took it ahead of Vardy. Now Vardy is playing regularly under Dean Smith. He said something about Tielemans saying that he'd missed one this year. He said he was at a game when he missed one against Warsaw. So he seems to be down the pecking order a bit now. But yeah, really surprising, Maddison. He doesn't always look completely comfortable taking penalties, I don't think. I think he's missed 2 of his 3 in the Premier League now after last night. And it's a shame because he was on for a big haul. He had already got the assist for Vardy with that kind of typical through ball that he played. Vardy looked great last night with those runs down the channels, and Maddison's the perfect player to kind of supply him there. I still like Maddison. I know people are getting really frustrated with him from this lack of returns. But he plays Fulham in game week 35, who have got quite a lot of injuries at the moment. Tim Ream's out for the season. Andreas Pereira was stretched off at the weekend. Mitrovic still isn't back. So this feels like quite a good fixture for Leicester because they do look much better in attack with Vardy. So I like him this week. And it wouldn't be a surprise to see me if he gets a goal.
Yeah, definitely. He's like with many people, he's been in my team at some point this season, and it was disappointing because that would have been a big haul, but I did get him in Sky. I haven't mentioned the Sky game for a while, but I did get him in Sky and captained him, so I did get at least an assist for him and a few points tiers there for his shooting. Havertz is next. He's still here. Not surprising because he hasn't played much. So yeah, 3 big. I'll just read out his stats. We've already spoken about Havertz, but 4 big chances, 3 missed. He has scored. He's had 8 shots on target. Second week on this table. 14 shots inside the box out of 15 shots in total. I think we'll sort of move over him. And McAllister as well, we can sort of speak about briefly because we've already spoken about McAllister. He is still here. So he's had a big chance, missed it. No goals. 4 shots on target, 15 shots, but just 6 inside the box. So that's a hell of a lot of long range efforts there, and just 4 on target because they're all from range as well. Obviously, he has penalties. We don't know where he's going to play, but you know he's imminent. He's imminent, definitely. There, Rocker, our man, there was Sketcher. We've spoken about him. He's still on the table. No, sorry, he was on the assists imminent table, so he's on the goals imminent table now. So maybe we shouldn't sketch over him so much. 6 shots on target, 11 shots in total, 3 inside the box. On the assists imminent table last week, goals imminent table this week. Big Sam's in charge. I'll just leave it there. I'll just leave it there for people. I'm not going to sketch over him like the Scoutcast duo did about Undav. Pereira's here, okay, for Fulham, 4.4 million. I mean, he will be in my team of the year. I mean, what a fit! He's been one of the best 5th midfielders I can remember for a long time. Absolutely fantastic. He's had a big chance. He hasn't missed it. He scored. He's had 4 shots on target, 3 shots inside the box, with 10 shots in total. I mean, this is a great return for 4.4. He's still there as a brilliant enabler, isn't he, Pereira?
Well, yeah, let's just get an injury update. He came off on a stretcher at the weekend. He landed awkwardly, and I think it was his knee. It didn't look good, but yeah, this is why I love pre-season so much, is kind of these players that come up who are 4.5 million from these newly promoted teams. And I was only looking back at some of our coverage from last summer on Scout, and Neil ran a Scout Notes piece when he just signed with Pereira on set pieces, and is he the 5th midfielder to go to? And but now we're still talking about him now, and people have shifted to 5 in midfield now a bit because of Solly Marsh and Mitoma, but outstanding value. I might be surprised to see him again this year, but he's going to be 6.5 next year, isn't he? But I still wouldn't rule him out if Fulham have a good run of fixtures. He might still be an option then.
Definitely. What's it? FPL Spartans has just picked up on what I was saying about Maddison and Sky, so I'm just reading this just because I want to. Maddison scored 4 points last night in Sky, 8 as captain. He just didn't bother with it, and to be honest. I mean, I felt good getting an assist out of him, but
What did he get in FPL? It was 2, wasn't it? Because he got
yeah,
the assist,
yeah,
but then he got
got the
the
penalty
penalty
miss.
deduction. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, FPL Spartans, you're probably right to skip it, but yeah. What the hell? I've got transfers left in that game. Finally, Anthony and Fernandez, two Manchester United players there. For Anthony, he's had 2 big chances, missed one of them. He has scored, though, in the last 4 matches, and his shots on target 5. He's had 7 shots inside the box out of 12 in total. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing more to add that we've already said last week about him. He's still got potential, but there are probably other better midfield options we're considering at the moment. But
Yeah, we always said minutes was the problem, didn't we?
Yeah,
And he did. He was a sub at the weekend. They went with Fernandez on the right,
yeah,
actually, and then Sancho on the left, and that is always the concern. A few people have been talking him up as a differential. I have at various stages this season, but he's a bit like another player on this list below him, Ben Rama, who was benched as well at
yeah,
the weekend. Minutes is the problem with these guys. You can never fully be confident that they're going to start games.
yeah. I'll mention Ben Rama here before I talk about the other Manchester United player. Ben Rama's had 10 shots, 6 inside the box. He's had a big chance. He's taken it because he scored, but he should have scored a tiny bit more, a third of a goal, whatever that means, an expected goal delta, and his shots on target 4. Just for a round off with the final name on here, just a reminder, with the goals imminent table, you have to score 10 shots, or you have to have 10 shots or more and impress the expected goal delta wizards behind the scenes to expect it to have a quality of shots there in order to get on this table. Once you score more than 1 goal, you are off the table in a good way. If you do not score and you do not get the registered expected goal delta or the shot quantity, you are just off this table in a bad way. So yeah, final name, Bruno Fernandes. We mentioned him before. He scored, he's assisted, and he's still here. There's more to come. He's had 3 big chances, missed 2 of them. 8 shots on target, 9 shots inside the box, 15 shots in total, which is the joint most on this table. Yeah, we've spoken about him. He's season keeper now, isn't he, Bruno Fernandes? He's been proved to be superhuman. So
yeah, because he's got that double in 37, and it's a pretty good double against Bournemouth at Chelsea, and then last day of the season, home against Fulham.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, I mean, if I really needed money, he is a possible player you could downgrade, but now he's back in this advanced role. Don't see any reason to lose him.
Another update from FPL Spartans about the Madison Sky transfer that no one cares about except me. But I will. He said he didn't have many transfers left, so that's why he didn't do it. I had 13 transfers left, so I'd rather finish.
Okay.
I haven't been using so many, so I just thought, why not?
I've never played the Sky game, but I'm always intrigued by it, and I always say I'm going to play it. So maybe next season
you will enjoy it. You'd be good at it because it's all about planning.
Like
you only get 50 transfers a year, and you have to plan quite well. And it's almost like the whole season's one enormous game week.
Yeah, it reminds me of the first ever fantasy game I got into, which was the Telegraph one, and you had 20 transfers to last you for the whole season, and that required real patience. So but 50, yeah, that sounds really interesting. So
20,
should have a look at that.
That's for the big boys, that one. Let's have a look at the assists imminent table. Last 4 matches, you've got to have created at least 7 chances to get on here. And once you've got more than 1 assist, you're off the table. Trippier is top, annoyingly. He's always top of this. One good thing about this is that when we first started doing these videos at the beginning of the year, Trippier wasn't here on this list, but he was getting a lot of chances. But the expected assist kind of metrics, the delta metrics, was that those chances were not of a quality to register.
Yeah.
But now they are. So he's had no assists, 29 corners, 13 chances created, 13 successful crosses. This is all in the last 4 matches. It's quite incredible. These are eye-popping stats, but then no assists. But he should have getting on for nearly 2 assists over that time. So it probably underlines what you were saying. If you've got him, you've got to keep him, but he is annoying.
Yeah, I think his XGI in the second half of the season is actually higher than what it was in the first. And but there's been a real lack of returns. Newcastle aren't keeping clean. The thing is, like, even if he wasn't delivering on these assist numbers, if Newcastle were keeping a few clean sheets, you would tick over in your team and you'd be happy with that, wouldn't you? But they're not. Tied in with this, where he's underperforming on his XA quite a bit, and it's frustrating. But I just think with that double in 36, just keep the faith a little bit longer and hope that Newcastle can tighten up and he can deliver on these numbers. So.
Speaking about delivering on numbers, McAllister's next, so just removed from my team, just in time to appear on the goals imminent and assists imminent. So he's annoyingly due. 7 chances created, no goals, no assists, no corners, no successful crosses. So he's just scraped in here. But the thing is, the expected assist delta is saying that he should have got well over an assist over that time. So that points him just below Trippier in terms of the expected assist delta metrics there. So his assists, he's not creating a lot, but what he's creating is of a high quality. To couple that with his goal imminent potential, he's a good player to keep. Unlike some idiot here like me who's got rid of him. James is next. We sketch over him. He's out for the rest of the season, so his stats are immaterial. We'll come back to that should he make a return. Iwobi is still here. Big Sam. Will Big Sam... Is Big Sam got any history with Iwobi? You'd like him or not like him? Or...
Well, it's Dyche at Iwobi, isn't it?
Oh, sorry, Dyche, sorry.
Big,
sorry.
We're getting Iwobi confused with Rocker. We've been speaking about Rocker so much.
I'm getting all my relegation threatened team managers confused here. You're completely right. Total brain freeze there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's Dyche.
Yes.
With Iwobi, Dyche... I mean, clearly Dyche loves him, so that's that out of the way. But 11 chances created, 2 corners, 3 successful crosses. He should be involved in more. It's Gameweek 38, isn't it? We want to focus on him, so sort of shelve it.
I mean, he has been playing in a bit of a bit higher up over the past couple of games, and he got into some. He forced a really good save out of Everson last night, and then he scored at the end. So he's getting into those bit more advanced positions. I think we can do a bit better than a Gameweek 38 punt on Iwobi personally, if that's going to be our one transfer. But it wouldn't surprise me if he got something. So,
Next up, Ryan Christie, the Undav of this table. Everyone's looking at this. I had to actually look up his first name because that's how interested I am in 5.3 million Bournemouth players. He has created 8 chances. He's taken 7 corners. He has not scored, but he's had 5 successful crosses. This is the first week on this table. Like Undav, people will see names like this on the table and think, no. But then next week he'll come back with maybe a brace of assists. Who knows? But he's worth a mention. Bournemouth, they're there. They've got cheap assets. They're playing well.
Yeah, they're doing very well. He's a player I did look at a couple of months ago doing the differentials each week for Scout. You're always trawling around these clubs at the bottom for value, and he does create a lot consistently. And he had a few problems with minutes then, but he's actually been playing a lot more recently. Plays in quite an attacking team. Again, I don't think anybody's going to go for him, but I don't think he's a bad option necessarily.
No, we'll get a lot of kudos when he gets us assists next week over the weekend. Kante's here. We're not going to persuade anyone for Kante, but I'll just mention him off. He's got Kante for Chelsea, created 8 chances. He should have involved in half an assist. He's had 1 successful cross. I mean, you never know. But if Kante gets an assist, we'll be pleased, but let's sketch over him. Let's undav him. Porro, I was picking up Porro the other week when he appeared on our table because he does have really great stats, and he did pop up. Was it a goal or an assist recently?
I can't remember. He's popped up and he did get something, didn't he?
He definitely got something, and I was thinking, haha. But he didn't appear on last week's table. But 4.8 million. The wing backs, Tottenham are looking a bit better now. We were talking before we came on air. I mean, obviously, real football fans, not fantasy football fans, look at results and things. But I don't care whether Tottenham get hammered 20,000 nil. No, I do. 20,001. And that one goal scored by Kane, assisted by Perot, or maybe scored by Perot and assisted by Kane. Tottenham, they're probably going to lose lots of games. They're absolutely crazy at the back. But they're scoring now, and they were all right against for some of that Liverpool game, especially the second half.
well, yeah, bad first half, good second. But Porro, he did score, didn't he? He scored against Man United,
Yeah.
which was the game before last. So it's just all a bit chaotic under Ryan Mason, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
the games have been absolutely crazy so far. They've
No,
been
I love
really bad and then really good.
it.
But suddenly Son looks like a bit of a threat as well. Hit
Yeah.
the post a couple of times at the
Yeah.
weekend and got the return as well. It's just, the fixtures aren't bad for them either. They go to Leeds on the last day of the season.
Yeah.
Again, you've got Kane in your team. A
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
people have lost him, haven't they, Joe? But
I
that
thought,
suddenly looks like a very good fixture.
well, yeah, I mean, I'll bring up the Kane thing now. I mean, I was, obviously my team doesn't have Salah, so I've still got Salah to go. But I thought the only ways to get Salah would be remove someone like Fernandez or Kane or even both. And I just couldn't do it. I looked at poor Kane and I saw everyone getting rid of him for Greenwood at Leeds. And I thought, I know Greenwood's not going to play, so you can't compare them. Greenwood's naturally going to get 0. But I just thought, I can't make that move because Kane looks.
Yeah, that was my move.
Yeah, I know, but it was a really common move.
Yeah.
I saw it
Yeah,
everywhere
was,
over Twitter.
my kind of thoughts were that having played the bench boost and having these huge squads, that enabled me to go down to Greenwood, put him last on my bench, not worry about it, and it enabled me to get Salah and Alexander-Arnold. But I wasn't. It wasn't an easy move, like you say, because you've owned Kane for longer than me, I think. And he's just been so consistent. Was it 25 goals or something this season
he is
already?
an absolute legend for my team because he's exactly what I want. He returns goals, assists. He can haul occasionally, or he can tick over with 6, 5, 6, 7 points. I think he got me 8 points this week. And he's really good towards the end of the season because towards the end of the season, rotation kicks in. I'm sort of preempting our team chat here, but towards the end of the season, this rotation kicks in. So suddenly the likes of De Bruyne or Salah even occasionally, or whoever, you're not sure they're going to quite start. Haaland could get a rest, those types of things. Kane never, like Fernandez, they just never get rested. Ever. Yeah. There's no replacement. There's no one in their team that can, someone can fit, not like with Brighton, this player's out, so we'll get this other player in. They haven't got that at Spurs. So that's why I think Kane is great. And I think most seasons I've ended with Kane. And I've sometimes even captained him. And I probably will in Gameweek 38 because he's just you're just looking for reliability. But anyway, I've digressed.
No. Well, it's worth talking about because so many people sold him. But they've got reasonable fixtures, haven't they? Got Palace next.
Yeah. Palace at home.
Then Villa, Brentford, and Leeds, I think, to finish the season.
I'll say that.
You'd expect 2 or 3 goals in that one.
Yeah. Next up, Traore. He's injured, so we're going to sketch over him. But should he make a return for Bournemouth? 11 corners, 8 chances created, 6 successful crosses, and the expected assist delta lads and lasses like him as well. And last one, Eze. Once again, people aren't really going for these Crystal Palace players that are going to keep scoring and keep. So Eze on penalties, possibly. 8 chances created. Yeah, was it him that took the penalty at Palace?
It was. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. So could be on penalties if Zaha's not around or not taking them. 4 corners, 3 goals he's had, but no assists. But he's had a couple of successful crosses, and with those chances as well. He's on for a monster haul at some point soon again.
Yeah, he's a good option because of those fixtures. I mean, going to Spurs, we've just been speaking about them defensively. That's a pretty good fixture this weekend. And then they finish with Bournemouth, Fulham and Forest. So it doesn't get much better than that in terms of fixtures. I know they haven't got the double in there, but they're still good fixtures. And Eze, he's cooking under Hodgson, isn't he? And doing really well. So, I quite like him as a 5th midfielder or 4th maybe.
Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to have a look at our teams. We'll go for Tom first and me. And while we chat about our teams, we preempted a little bit with our thoughts around Spurs. there, and also formation and stuff that Tom has been talking about. But do have a think in the live chat about some questions to consider. Lots of you in there, well over 100 of you now. Do have a consider those questions, and then at the end of that, I'll ask. I'll do a reminder again, but I'll go through and I'll look for those with a question mark. So do put a question mark on them so I can see them easily. Okay, let's have a look at your team, Tom. This is for Gameweek 35. You want to run through your team, what potential moves you might make, who you're captaining, and so on.
Yeah, so I have currently got Kepa in goal. I've got 3 defenders, Alexander-Arnold, Trippier and Alex Moreno. 5 across the middle, Salah, Marsh, Fernandes, McAllister and Rashford. And then I've got 2 up top, my current captain, Haaland, and Ollie Watkins, who goes to Wolves. Yes. And then on my bench, I've got Raya, Botman, Keane and Greenwood as well.
That team picks itself, doesn't it? The 11 is great.
No bench headaches.
The 11 is great. The captain is great. The vice captain is great. The bench is in the correct order. I mean, they're all going to concede. Greenwood's not going to play. Botman might get you something. Keane might get you something.
Doubt it.
But that's why they're on the bench. They might, but you doubt it.
It's getting that money. It's getting the money into the starting 11, isn't it? They're all cheap. Keane's 4.2, Greenwood's 4.0, Botman's 4.5. So I'm going to
go on a limb here and say you're going to just roll this week, aren't you? Because that 11 looks really good.
I think so. I'm ranked 40k right now. I was about 30 something earlier in the week, but then I lost a little bit of ground after those Estupinan and Luke Shaw as well. I don't own Shaw and he got the clean sheet. So I'm at 40 now. The only thing which is tempting this week is the schedule and the fact the first game on of the game week is 3 p.m. on Saturday, and that involves Man City at home to Leeds. Now we might get a few leaks filtering through before that. And if you find out that Mahrez or Alvarez is going to start, that could be tempting to have a bit of a punt on them. Mahrez isn't easy to fit in because you can see from that midfield there, who am I going to sell? No. But Alvarez for Watkins, if we knew he was starting, might be something I look at because Watkins and Villa, over the past 2-3 games, we just lost a little bit of our attacking way. Not looking quite as threatening, I think. And I just think we've got a small squad, and maybe it's just catching us with a little bit. We played a lot of games, so that isn't. And Watkins hasn't got great fixtures after either. I think we've got Tottenham, Liverpool, and Brighton to finish the season. So maybe it's the time of season if Alvarez is playing, if De Bruyne's still got this niggle. And even if he hasn't, they've got Real Madrid 3 days later, haven't they, in the Champions League? So we saw what he can do at the weekend. But that's the only move I'd consider. And then looking ahead to the double game week, if I don't sell Watkins, I'll probably move him to a Newcastle striker, probably Isak. And then I will probably sell Moreno or Kane and move them to a Estupinan, I would imagine, to get my triple ups of Newcastle and Brighton in play for 36. And I haven't really looked too much beyond that at the moment. So.
I mean, Watkins is interesting. So Watkins is a player I'm considering to bench or remove. But he's Wolves away. Now, I would have said Wolves don't usually get rolled over by teams. But then the Brighton match came along. So they clearly are capable of getting rolled over. And Watkins, has scored many points. But he has, on the whole, though, he's only had one massive haul, hasn't he? It's been
Newcastle
against Newcastle, and it's tended to be like a goal or assist. So for owners, I mean, if you've got a team like yours, I mean, you would play him, but it does sound like even for you as a Villa fan and someone fielding Watkins that he is still dispensable at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't create much at Man United. That's probably to be expected. But in the match before against Brentford, we weren't great either. Wolves, terrible at the weekend, but prior to that at home under Lopetegui, they've actually been pretty good. So I think if you've got him, you try and play him. But I'm not totally averse to selling him this week if something like an Alvarez pump becomes viable if we get a team news link. So that's where I'm at really at the moment. And then 2 transfers in 36 to get those Newcastle and Brighton triple ups in place for the double.
So would you now? So if you did Watkins to Alvarez, which is another move, the move I'm considering as well, and I'm sure other people might be, but because you've got Greenwood as well, who you would look to get a Newcastle attacker in, or maybe 2. So would you be moving Watkins to Alvarez and then removing Alvarez before his double game week in game week 37 to get Isak or Wilson?
I would do that. No, I don't think I would.
You would look to upgrade Greenwood.
Possibly, yeah. It's probably why I might just hold off on that Watkins move, and then it's in it this week, play him, and then it's an easy route to an Isak or a Wilson, isn't it? The week after. That probably makes a bit more sense. It's just we're at that stage of the season where you're looking for opportunities, aren't you? And Alvarez, if we know he's playing at home to Leeds, is one of those kind of opportunities where you can go for it. But yeah, it does complicate matters now that I've only got 2 forward spots in play.
Yeah.
When you start then looking and say, well, if you weren't to go for Isak, could you go for somebody in a Newcastle midfielder? But Willock or Joe Ellington, they're not.
Yeah, and also which of that midfield do you remove? I mean, they're all great.
Yeah, exactly.
Salah, March, Fernandes, McAllister, Rashford, all good. Yeah, no, I think it's just interesting as well because we are getting to that stage where we're making moves because of doubles, but at the same time we're looking at some other fixtures as well. Now, and that point you make about Alvarez is really good because I remember he came into my team. I think it was just before the World Cup or just after. Haaland was injured. There was, but he may not have started, and we got some wind of that. So I just got Alvarez in and captained him because it looked like Haaland wasn't gonna start. Or so had him in, and Alvarez there as a captain was a fantastic differential. I remember that being a really good high scoring week for me. There is that potential there. Alvarez could even be a really good captain against Leeds if he's the main striker. If Haaland's benched for some reason, you've tempted me into that now. I mean, that could be the move to make, really. Alvarez captain.
Yeah, even if he's playing with Haaland, I mean, he looks such a threat. He's playing in that kind of KDB advanced role, isn't he? And what a differential if we know he's starting against a Leeds side, potentially under Sam Allardyce, which would be pretty interesting.
Definitely. Let's have a look at my team. Similar but different. I've got Steele in goal against Everton. I've got Trippier against Arsenal at home. I've got Alexander-Arnold at home to Brentford. Shaw, he's got West Ham away. In a 3-5-2, I've got Jack Grealish, I'll come to in a second. I've got March, Mitoma at home to Everton. Rashford and Fernandes have got West Ham away, obviously. I've got Haaland as my captain currently at home to Leeds, like Grealish has. And Harry Kane, my new differential. He was 12% owned going into this match. So his goal was worth the same. It totally negated Salah's goal. And because I kept Fernandes as well. So I'm sort of up on that deal. Because Salah's ownership is something similar, 80% or something.
Yeah, it was around that. Yeah.
So Kane, it was pointed out to me that if free hitters, so 8% of the top 10k free hitted, and if all of those had Kane, so in Gameweek 35, their Kane team comes back in. If they had, say, if most of those had Kane, then that's assuming all of them had Kane, which is unlikely, but nevertheless, that would boost Kane in the top 10Ks ownership up to about 20%. And because people like yourself, many people have got Greenwood in, there is not an easy way to get Kane in this week at all. No. So Kane at home to Crystal Palace is my vice captain and possibly might end up being my captain. I just think, wow, what a differential. On my bench, I've got Kepa. I think Bournemouth will score. I've got Watkins because I find myself in a position where Watkins is the weakest of my 8 attackers. which is a sorry state of affairs. Well, a good state of affairs to be in, but a sorry state of affairs for my mental health. I've got Botman at Arsenal, he will concede, and I've got Henry at Liverpool, who will concede as well. So yeah, weak links. Trippier is a weak link, but I'm playing him because he's better than the others. Yeah, it's now Grealish is the interesting one, because you were talking about getting wind of Manchester City news. Now it's an annoying time because most people, especially if you've got kids and things and you've got just stuff to do about the house, Saturday off, or you're going to matches as well, you just probably haven't got time to make these split second moves. So chances are this is what I'll end up with, but there's a possibility. Would you think that Grealish could be amongst those rested ahead of the Real Madrid game? Is it against Champions League game?
Yes, I think so. I mean, people tend to have their rests, don't they? And Grealish has played quite a lot recently, so it wouldn't surprise me. Let's see what happens tomorrow against West Ham. He might be given his rest then, and if he is, then you feel a little bit more. Pep is one of these managers who places a lot of emphasis on rhythm, so you might want to play him closer to that Real Madrid game to ensure he's sharp. But that'll probably dictate. If he plays again tomorrow and he plays close to 90 minutes, then you might start to get a little bit worried about that. But then that could open up a move where you go direct to Mahrez or something like that.
Well, no, I was actually thinking that move that you mentioned there. Bench Grealish, then Watkins comes into the 11. But of course, Watkins doesn't come into the 11. Alvarez comes into the 11 because I still got a Manchester City place. And then I could, possibly even put the vice captaincy on him, and maybe even the captain if we think Haaland's going to get arrested as well. I mean, it's just Leeds at home is such a great fixture. Big Sam or not, I want to be in on that. And Watkins to Alvarez if I think Grealish, and I would bench Grealish because I still want Grealish, but I don't want to. I don't want 1 point of Grealish like I've already got at the moment.
Yeah, well, let's see what happens tomorrow, and then you can kind of decide then, can't you? And if you are around and near a computer, and you can have a quick check at 1 o'clock on Saturday and see what's happening with that, we might get lucky with that, get a bit of news. But the team, I keep looking down because I haven't got your team on the screen, Joe. I'm looking at my phone and I'm watching it, so I can see it here. But it looks, again, it's really strong. I mean, there's no real place for Watkins there. You're not going to start him over any of those players, are you? So, Kane feels like a really good differential. So, Salah, you don't have Salah, but it's basically Salah versus Kane. You can't have them all, can you? So,
and that's what I thought. Once, I mean, I'm expecting Salah to score a lot against Fulham. I'm expecting to dip down. I mean, I've gone up about 2. So I was 6,500. And I'm now 4,500 in the rankings.
Wow.
And I think my worst case scenario is Salah to score a hat-trick or something. And I think at that stage when I was 6,000, that would have got me down to 13,000, which is certainly not the end of the world.
No.
Because I didn't take that hit. And that was the thing. I went up about 500-600 places just by not taking a hit. And so I think for me, and I thought about that, do I want Kane or Salah for the duration? And I definitely want Kane over Salah, which people ahead of the double game week would have clearly didn't agree with me on. But I wonder how many will agree now.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see. No, I mean, I think it depends what happens against Fulham, doesn't it? I think I just got an update saying I think Jota's a doubt again. So that frees up another place in that front. I mean, you'd expect Salah to start anyway, wouldn't you? I don't think there's any doubts about that. But yeah, if he comes and gets a brace tomorrow, then I'd feel a little bit more comfortable about it. But I'm certainly not going into these next 3-4 matches thinking it's a guarantee that Salah's going to outscore Kane from this point onwards, because now we're down to just 4 games against 4. There's no additional matches for Salah, is there? No. And they've got some good fixtures.
Just a normal man then.
Leicester and Southampton are good fixtures, but Spurs have got they've got to go to Leeds. They've got some good ones themselves. So it'll be interesting to see who comes out on top of that one.
I think for other people who've got a similar team like this, or like your team as well, Trippier is the weakest link, specifically this week
Yeah.
against home to Arsenal. I fully expect him to concede. So you're relying on these assists that, as we've just shown with these assist imminent tables, is seemingly never going to come. So you're on a hope and a prayer there. He looks good for the bench. So if you've got a better defender, play him. And I think I might have made, if I had, I possibly might even still do this move, is bench Trippier and just upgrade Henry to someone. But I'm not sure who.
Okay.
But just a better defender. I haven't got too much in the bank. So it's probably not worth it. But if you've got some money in the bank and you can upgrade one of your other defenders who hasn't got a double, Trippier I think is definitely benchable. I think.
Yeah, I think they concede, don't they? So Arsenal have looked a lot better going forward than they have defensively. So you could get an assist this week. It wouldn't surprise me if Newcastle scored 2 past Arsenal, given that they're looking pretty leaky at the moment. But yeah, I don't see him getting those 4 clean sheet points.
Okay, let's have a look at the questions and from the live chatters. So we'll start here. There we go. We've got more stuff from FPL Spartans confirming that it is 50 transfers in Sky, by the way. Once again, I'm interested in that. Okay, Preston asks, what's your take on selling Botman for a Crystal Palace defender? Then by Wilson for Watkins. He has Isak already. Okay, so let's unpack that. There will be people with Isaac in their team, Isaac rather, and they want to get Wilson. They want to do that double up, but they've got Botman and Trippier, so they want to keep Trippier. So that's what he's talking about here. Getting another cheap defender in, which was just talk about for my team, so that frees up. Basically get rid of your Botman or whatever, Dan Burn, whoever you got, Nick Pope, and free up that space so that you can get Wilson, Isak, Gameweek 36. Sounds good, actually, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just looking at the Newcastle fixtures now, and I don't see many clean sheets for the run-in. They've got Arsenal. We just said we expect them to concede. They then go to Leeds. Now, going to Ellen Road in a match of that magnitude for Leeds, I'm not sure you would bank on a clean sheet there. They then play Brighton. Incredibly tough game.
There's no clean sheet there.
Yeah, Leicester have looked a lot better going forward under Dean Smith recently, and then they finish away at Chelsea. So maybe that's the best chance they've got of a clean sheet. But I don't see I don't see a great run of fixtures defensively there for Newcastle. So if you've got the transfers, I wouldn't start taking hits and things like that for it. But if you can do it and you've got, say, you haven't got a transfer in mind this week or next week, and so you can afford to remove Botman and add a Wilson or an Isak or both of them or whatever. Yeah, I think that could be the way to go.
Yeah, definitely. Preston asked about Crystal Palace defender in for Botman. I wouldn't go for, this is the wrong, Crystal Palace do have good fixtures, but they're facing Spurs this week away. So this is not the week to go there. So I would have a look at other options around that price if you haven't got too much to spend.
Or if you want to do the move this week and then bench them and then you've got another good defender who can play, because that run after is very good, isn't it? Although then you might think, well, why do it this week? Why just wait, keep them in place this week and then do the 2 transfers next week?
Yes, exactly. That's why I would do it as well, because Callum Wilson could get injured. Isak could get injured. And then you made that move too early. And also that would
for no real reason.
Yeah, so, and that would also tell you which is the striker to get in, because if one of those is injured, then that's it. They're nailed.
They're probably going to share time in that double. I can see one starting one and the other getting the other match in that double game week. But even off the bench, they're both doing very well. So
it's definitely
I don't mind the double up.
Definitely worth it in a double, because you're getting two shots at that as well. Dan Boy asks, Salah for Fernandes for game week 36 to allow us to remove Salah after he plays Brentford to Fernandes. That frees up about 3 million, which will allow him to presumably upgrade someone like Greenwood to a Newcastle attacker for their double. That sounds like a great move, game week 36, if you can do that. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, selling Salah, you know what can happen when you do that. But do you think that Fernandes and a Newcastle attacker are stronger than Salah and whoever, because it wouldn't be Greenwood, whoever's going to be playing in your starting 11
Yeah,
instead.
of
So
course, yeah.
you've just got to analyse that 2 against 2 matchup and see what, Man United have got that additional fixture, haven't they? They've got Bournemouth and Chelsea in the double. So it could pay off. I never feel that easy saying, yeah, it's fine to sell Salah because we know what he can do, but it might make sense then.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've essentially already done that because I don't have him. I've shunned the chance to get him because I do think there are other options. I do think he is overpriced this season. I mean, I know he is like the second, third highest, but I do think that 13 million, I think 12 million would have been
Yeah,
a
and I
better
think
price for him.
there's that argument this year where Haaland's just your auto captain
Yeah,
every week anyway, isn't
yeah,
he? So are you better off by spreading the funds a bit
yeah.
more? I still like to own him. I bought him in this week and I'm not captaining him, but I can see why other people maybe don't feel that he's as essential as he has been in past seasons.
Definitely. Kun here asks, would you start Perot against Crystal Palace or Darlow at West Ham? Perot for me. He's on the assist imminent table. He's been on these tables for a while. I do fancy that, but I don't know. What do you think? Do you think what do you think? Essentially, what this question is, because everyone knows that whether Spurs win or lose, there's going to be goals in it. Kane is going to be involved, and the wing backs are going to be involved somewhere. But Darlow against West Ham, so that's basically are Manchester United going to better keep a clean sheet and Darlow possibly get an assist at West Ham? What do you think?
I might be tempted by him because I think Porro will concede. I think Palace are going to. I think this game could suit Palace, especially if Zaha's fit. I expect Wan-Bissaka to play against Brighton, Joe, on Thursday, probably because he did well against Matoma, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I can't see as good as Matoma is. Wan-Bissaka is his kryptonite.
Yeah,
I mean, Wan-Bissaka could have dropped a few gears, and he still would have had Matoma on a plate. So, yeah.
So does Dalot sit that one out at Brighton? Does he play at left back? I mean, see what happens on Thursday, but I do think.
Yeah.
Just feel a bit more, I know that United have got issues at the back with Varane and Martinez out, but you just feel with Casemiro and Eriksen sitting there, Shaw's actually done really well at centre back, hasn't he? He's kind of, he's been shifted over, which some people think isn't great for FPL, but Neil ran a piece on the site and it actually helps him for bonus, playing in that centre back role. Some of his best BPS scores have come in that centre back role. So going away to West Ham, I don't think that's a bad fixture for Dalot.
Okay, I like Porro and
you
go
like Porro,
but to be honest, they are both good. They are both good options.
Yeah.
Definitely play whichever one or both over. If Trippier's in the equation there, I would bench Trippier over either of those two. Yeah. Definitely do that. I can't get any more Manchester United players myself. Tripled up already. Roman asks, what end of season factors do you consider for your transfers and squad picks? Motivation of teams, bench players, getting a chance, tiredness of players, retiring or moving players, etc. So you've already mentioned one of those. Gameweek 38, Everton might need a win against Bournemouth. That could be time for a punt on one of their players, Calvert-Lewin in particular. But yeah, what sort of end of season, these sorts of fixtures do you consider? Cool. Do you want to go Scott Carson deep on the season running or elsewhere?
It's very difficult, isn't it? I mean, it was only a few weeks ago we were looking at Fulham once they reached that 39-point mark, and it looked like they were on the beach, and then they suddenly pulled out 2 back-to-back wins out of nowhere. And so it's very hard to know. You think, you want to go for those teams fighting for something, but then the pressure of that, sometimes from a team being on the beach and playing with that freedom, can help them in an attacking sense. So I wouldn't really say I have any kind of set factors or anything like that. I mean, I always look at fixtures, look at weak defences. Leeds shipped more goals in April than I think any other side have done throughout the year in a calendar month. They've conceded something like 23 goals. And even if Allardyce goes in there, I don't suddenly see him see him being able to tighten things up there in a short frame of time. So looking at Man City, you've got them next. Newcastle have got them after that. Their strikers and midfielders are no-brainers for those fixtures.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess you just look at everything on an individual basis rather than having any kind of set factors to kind of look at.
I think overall, I mean, yeah, there's a variety of factors. And yeah, as you said, you look at it, each case and each season's different. But going back to my Harry Kane point again, if there's something that's overarching, there's a reason why Harry Kane is always in my team at the end of seasons, because he's nailed on no matter what. All of those things you mentioned, players on the beach, doesn't matter. He's immune to beaches. He's immune to rotation. He's immune to all of those worries about all those teams. So they're the players that I look for, and would look for the captaincy in any sort of non-Haaland season. So looking for those talisman that do not get a rest, that you can rely on them. They're gonna turn up in the game week 37 or game week 38. So yeah, I really like those types of players. Harry Kane and anyone else like that. And I would probably put Bruno Fernandes in that camp as well. He just will not. I mean, even as we've seen him, even with a massive injury, which wasn't that massive in the end. He's still playing.
Well, he still said Ten Hag said he was playing. He wasn't 100% fit, but you wouldn't know it from that performance.
So goal and assist in the 2 matches he's come back not 100% fit, and so I want him 100% fit for this season running. Lennox saying sorry to dampen the mood. I was sorry to dampen the Brighton mood around here, but is a Brighton triple up really essential now, given their poor fixtures and threat of rotation? They don't have poor fixtures, teams like that, if you're going for attacking players.
Yeah,
because they've already beaten some of the big boys this season.
Oh, they're
better.
Their goals. Look at their underlying numbers. Everything. I mean, they're top of the table, I think, for XG in like the last 6. They have been for a while now, and so I do kind of get, given the volume of fixtures that they've got, the fact they play more times than anybody else. I'm not really looking at it thinking, oh, the fixtures aren't great. You're getting a lot of fixtures. I think a double up at least in attack is kind of the minimum there.
Yeah, and also the threat of rotation. There is still a core 11 there, and that basically De Zerbi should have, the team he fielded against Wolves, he should have fielded against Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
He thought psychologically after that he wanted them to sort of get back on the horse, get going, avenge that, but they were just absolutely mentally and physically
too soon, wasn't it?
They were drained. They had nothing in the bank left for that, and it showed. And so then he moved them. But McAllister, Matoma, March, Pascal Gross, who is Pascal Gross, is another player like Harry Kane. He's another player to go. But he will play all over the place, but he will not get benched. And these are the types of players they're not going to go. And while Ferguson's still out, Welbeck is still the number 1 there. But of course we do have Undav to come in, and all they can play together. So I don't think there's necessarily a threat of rotation. There might be some reduced minutes here and there, but I think we've sort of had their break now.
Yes. Yeah, you would hope so. And they want to finish strongly. They've still got a lot to play for.
Yeah. So, Gold FPL has asked a question that was very similar to the earlier one, essentially about moving one of the 3 Newcastle players, particularly Trippier or Cher. Yes, you certainly do. He mentions Willock in there. I personally would not be removing Willock or Joe Ellington or any of those attacking Newcastle. I mean, even if I had Longstaff, I wouldn't remove him. I mean, there's a lot of goals in Newcastle, but
they're looking really good going forward, aren't they?
And final question: Johnston or Ramsdale for a goalkeeper to have? I'm going to say neither.
But for the rest of the season,
I would look elsewhere. But if I had a gun pointing to my head saying you must have one of Johnston or Ramsdale, Guita could be back at some point, I presume.
Johnson has played really well, but there is that slight worry that Hodgson might give him a game. Once they're safe, you might find that he gets that game against Forest on the last day of the season, which would be annoying.
Yeah, exactly. There's that one. And also with Ramsdale, I think there's obviously better Arsenal players, but they've got tough fixtures, and I can't see any clean sheets.
Well.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess our choice of those two, Johnston, but I expect Guita to come in for at least one of those matches towards the end.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just looking through the other options to see if we can throw up anybody
Well,
else worth
I would go for
considering.
Steele, just sheer volume of matches, and it's the
Yeah.
league keeper. Just go and frees up money there. I would also say, I mean, De Gea, if you've got a Manchester United spot going,
Would you consider Pickford, even though he's got
and
that Brighton City
yeah,
next, but he's got good 2-1s. He's going to pick up saves in those, isn't
yeah,
he? And then
yeah,
he's
I
got
would.
good 2 fixtures to finish. They're not defending very well in the Dyche,
No,
but he does rack up the saves.
he clearly
So
does his homework on penalty takers.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, no, I do not rule Pickford out, and I was very, very tempted to get him in my Sky team last night, and I wish I had
Yeah.
now. But yeah, he was, and he is a. I think he's a good option there, and it'll be very different. I'll just race through a couple. And now the questions are coming in. So right, we're up to an hour and a quarter. So we're just going to rattle through some of these. We'll do some quick ones, and then we'll wrap it up. Jota replacements. Could we go back to Jesus till the end of the season? Asked Philip.
I don't dislike that. Yeah,
No.
I was looking at some forwards the other day. So yeah, tough next couple of fixtures, but then they finish with Forest and Wolves. So I don't dislike that. I think you've got to look at the Newcastle forwards, haven't you, as well? I think Solanke, if you wanted to drop down to somebody cheaper and then push some money into midfield defence, I'd consider him as well. But yeah, Jesus, it's quite an interesting shout. So he gets chances. He often misses them, but at least he gets a lot of chances.
Dan Boy, as we've sort of already answered this, top goalkeepers for the end of the season. Steele for volume of fixtures. Pickford as your differential. And I guess if you wanted to play it safe, and you can spare, Edison or De Gea.
Would you be worried about Sanchez getting a start, Joe, between now and the end of the season?
Oh, yes. I mean, for the same thing that Johnston. So Steele has got the number one jersey. Johnston has, on merit, got the number one jersey at Palace. But I expect Gahey to play. I expect Sanchez to probably play one of the matches towards the end, even though Sanchez is number two. You never know. I don't know how it will work, but Zerbi might feel he wants to do that. Particularly if Sanchez might be on the off. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. So you might give him that last. Ideally, you would want that to be the last game of the season, wouldn't you? And then you've got a playing sub to come in. Who's your reserve keeper, Joe? Who's got Kepa or?
And I've got Kepa. So for me, it bothers me, but it doesn't bother me because I'm quite happy for Kepa to come in. And when Kepa's come in for Steele for me before recently, he's actually got returns for me. Well, as bad as Chelsea are, Kepa gets saves. As bad as Spurs are, Kane gets goals, and it's these types of things I would look for. Philip saying talking about Steele or De Gea there, and
De Gea is quite a good shout actually. I browsed over the United ones, but they've got the double, haven't they? They've got some good fixtures.
Going for the Golden Gloves this season.
Yeah. So that's a good that's a good shout.
Yeah, I personally don't have the space. But I guess if you've removed on Fernandes for Salah, you might have done that when he was supposedly injured for Gameweek 33. Then you might have a space there. In fact, I think De Gea is a great option there. Roman, one more question: what moves would you consider high risk, high reward? Okay, well that's an interesting one to end on. What would you consider? What move would you consider? If we rephrase that, the most high risk, high reward. Which player?
Well, I suppose we were talking about those City punts this week, weren't we? Like Mahrez and Alvarez. They don't necessarily have to be high risk. If we get a team lead that they're a reliable one that they're playing, it's a bit riskier because you're probably then going to keep these players for the rest of the season. But they could get minutes. I suppose like a high risk, high reward would be somebody like who's got that explosive factor, like Son, who is a lot of money. So it's risky. But if Son came out in one of these next two fixtures and scored a brace and got you 15 points or whatever, I don't think anybody would be surprised because they look a bit better attacking under Mason. He's getting a lot of chances. He's hit the post a couple of times at the weekend. He returned as well. So I suppose those are the really high risk, high reward ones, aren't they? Where there's a lot of money.
Definitely. So I would say use a couple of things. Use the FPL site and use Fantasy Football Scout members area if you are a member there, or if not, get membership there. But look at the stats and look at actually ownership as well. So when I did my differentials video last week, I cross-referenced two things really. I looked at who had the most expected goal involvement, and then I ignored anyone who had, well, in this case, over 10% ownership. But most of them had 5%, and about half that list had 0%, like 0.0 something or other. So they were barely owned. Undav, Welbeck, all these types of players were all in there. And so that's freely available on the FPL website. You just go in and just go on sort by transfers, and then just keep scrolling down until you get to the end, and you get those. They are the high reward, high risk. And have a look at those players. And if you can see a Pascal Gross, an Undav, a Calvert-Lewin even, and Alvarez, all of these types of players, the ones who can you think, will they get me a brace? Could they get a hat-trick? But could they get a brace? Could they get an assist as well? And are they owned by hardly anyone? And it's just a simple thing of cross-referencing those two things. That's all I did last week. I just made a 10-minute video on it. And you can make that 10-minute video in your head and come up with these names that Tom's just said. Son, that you said there, is probably the poster boy of that question, isn't he?
Yeah. And sometimes, like you say there, just going for, well, look, we're going into this Brighton double. Marsh, Matoma and McAllister are the majorly heavily owned ones. So the risk would be, well, say, well, I'm going to go for Gross. He might play it right back in one of the games, but he can still get a return from there. And so it is kind of like it's backing a player from the teams that you think will do well, but maybe not going for the obvious route, which is risky. Because if I haven't got Matoma and his effective ownership each week is about 80-90%. So if he returns, I'm in trouble. But that's the risk, and that's it's that time of the season with 4 game weeks to go. You might be more comfortable with that.
I'm an owner of Matoma. He's my shield. Because when I saw he was benched, as a Brighton fan, I was like, oh. But as a FPL player, I did not care because he's owned by nearly 9 out of 10 top 10k managers. So, okay. We were going to have to wrap it up now. It's a really long one. Thanks so much for those questions there. They were so good, your questions, that we dwelled on them. So very good questions there, especially for the season running. We're back again next week. More goals imminent, and there's more videos and podcasts available all throughout the week. We've got burning questions. We're going to have some team reveals as well. We've got Harry's looking at the best wildcard team this week, I think he's looking at. But forgive me if I'm wrong. It might be free hit team, but that's what he does. And there's going to be loads and loads of videos there and content, especially over the weekend as well, all available as a podcast. Do remember to press like and do subscribe. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you again next week. See you later, Tom. Have a good game week.
Thanks, Joe. See you soon.